Google Sheets is an excellent way for teachers to track and view data. Collecting your data into a visual reference aids teachers, parents, and administrators in the decision-making process. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you a few tracking templates, how they work, and also how you can use them in your class. So the first thing you need to do is log into your Gmail account and access the tracking templates. These live in the resources folder of the Google Sheets folder in my resource guide. So you do that by clicking this resource guide, then going to Google Sheets, Resources, and you'll see there's a few different folders of trackers. I've already opened a few of them, so you can just dig through the folders and see what you like. But the first one I want to show you is just this basic homework tracker template. This is a fairly basic one. I built this for my class this year as a way to challenge them to complete their homework as a class. And so what I did was I just made a few formulas down here. In each column for each day, there is a formula that calculates the class average in homework. So say, for instance, student 1 brought in and they did their whole homework. So what I would do is give them a 1. And maybe student 2 didn't do any of their homework, so I'll give them a 0. Student 3 did half of their homework, so I'll give them a 0.5. And student 4 did 3/4 of their homework. Let's give them 0.75. So if you scroll down here, you can see the average, the class average, is not very good. It's about 56%. So the way I'd use this was I would challenge the class as a group to complete X amount of percentage of their homework. So I'd start out low and say maybe this week I want the whole class to get 80% of their homework done. And then I would go around with my iPad and go from table to table tracking their homework. And at the end of each day, I would post it up on the board. Hey class, today we got 82% of our homework, which met our goal. And then I would offer them some sort of incentive at the end of the week. If they met their homework goal as a class, maybe they would get 10 extra minutes of recess or something like that. I find it really helpful. In our class, we had the students sitting in certain tables. So I made a column here for a table number, and I would put the table number of each student in here, and that way I could arrange them so I could just go from table to table. I would go and track table 1 first, and then table 2, and so on and so forth. So you can view this if you highlight all of the data and go all the way over. You can organize it in alphabetical order, or in this case by numerical order, by going to Data and then Sort Range column A to Z, and you'll see that this groups all of our students by table, table 1s, table 2s. The last thing I want to show you on this one in particular is over here on the side you can also see the students' homework average on the right. So this would be for the individual student. You see student 1 has a 100% average, student 3 has a 50% average, and so on and so forth. I've conditionally formatted these cells so that anything between 90 and 100% is green, anything between 70 and 90 is yellow, and anything below 70 shows up red. So this can just show you really quickly without having to look too much into it. You can see which students are struggling to turn in their homework or which students are doing a good job. At the bottom of this page, you'll see a little weekly and monthly averages. This is just for the teacher's sake, or you could use this to challenge the students. But if you click on this, you see it's just a place where you can gather the weekly or monthly average of the class. So you could look down at the bottom of the last one and see, oh, well, this week the students had 80% of their homework. And then the next week, week 2 of the month, they had 75%. And then maybe on week 3, they did a great job and had 100%. And this just averages up to show you the monthly average. So you could keep track of this on a daily, weekly, monthly, and make challenges for your students that correspond with those. The next tracking template that I want to show you is the gradebook tracker template. This is just like any teacher's gradebook, but I've just made it into a spreadsheet so it tracks a little bit easier and you don't have to keep up with all of your paperwork and things of that nature. Also, it's a benefit in that you can adjust this from any web-enabled device, so you don't necessarily have to be right in front of your computer. You could be at any computer and get your work done, or even do this on your cell phone. So, this works very similar to the homework tracker template, but I just made a name here. You can put in the names of each test that they're doing, and as well you can scroll down and see the class average on the test. You can see the high score and the low score on the test as well. I think this helps for the teacher just to see where they're falling. Are they making the test too hard? Is everybody doing bad on the test? Are you making the test too easy? Is everybody making 100? I think this helped me just to see visually, and as well, just like the homework tracker template, these cells have conditional formatting to show you the averages as a color. And as well, on the side here, all the students' individual averages will show up in this column AG. So you can see the student's test average for the week or for the month or for the semester or however many tests you'd like to average. Another thing I'd like to show you that works with both the gradebook tracker and the homework tracker is that here in the bottom you see that there's a little tab within your workbook, your spreadsheet. So what I like to do is before I put any grades in, I like to go ahead and get my students' names in here. And if you want, in our school, each student has a number, 1 through 30 in our class. But I like to format this so every student's name is in here before I put any test grades in. And then that's going to be my blank template, just the month template. So now, for instance, when I'm ready to start testing or tracking homework in September, I would just click down here in this little drop-down arrow, select duplicate, and you'll see down here now we have a copy of an exact copy of our first month's template. So then I could just change this to September, and then every time I track tests that occur in September, I'd put them into this. When it comes to October, I would go ahead and duplicate this month template again with their names and student information in it. And that would save me from having to tediously type in everything with each new month. The next tracker template I'd like to show you is a individual reading tracker template. This was made for our school. We use a reading system called Fountas and Pinnell, and it's basically just a way of tracking students' reading so that we are ensuring that we're constantly giving students reading that is at their level so that they can always be progressing and not trying to read books that are too hard and not doing well with it, or on the opposite end, reading books that are too easy and not continuing to challenge themselves. So this is just a template that I made that is designed to live with the student for their entire elementary school, even up to high school career, as far as they go with the Fountas and Pinnell system. I've made enough rows and columns down here. This goes all the way down to 1,000. So a student could start with this when they're in kindergarten and just continuously track their progress throughout their whole school career. So as you see here, there's a space for the student name, their grade, their date, the teacher name, the school name, and then they just, whenever they take a Fountas and Pinnell test, it's like a running record test. They read a segment of a text, and we track how many errors they make, how many self-corrections, how many words were in the book, the time it took them to read it, things of that nature. So the student or the teacher's aide or the teacher would just type in the title of the book here and then the date, and then they would type in or F, fiction or nonfiction, the level of the book, A to Z. Fountas and Pinnell uses a leveling system. And then you would type in the amount of reading words. Each of the Fountas and Pinnell books and running record test has that listed on there. Worst case scenario, you can just count them. As the student reads, you're going to chart their errors, how many errors they have, and type it in there, as well as their corrections. So if a student makes a mistake and then comes back and says, oh, this word is actually this, you would count that as a correction. And I've inserted formulas in here that will automatically, once you populate these cells with the data, these formulas will calculate themselves and tell you their accuracy rate. And then there's also, in the testing guide, you grade them on comprehension. So then here you could select their independent, instructional, or hard. You just put an X there indicating which one of the three that it related to. The self-correction ratio just takes the, I believe it takes the errors and the corrections and divides them. And then the time helps adjust the reading rate. It gives you the words per minute, so it takes the time in seconds and divides the amount of reading words you have. So I've also put some graphs in here that the students and parents and teachers can see visually, so you can see over time how students have grown. So if you click here, you'll see this is just an accuracy growth chart, and it takes the time and maps it over a linear fashion. It starts with the first test. This one could have been in 2011, and then again there was another test in 2012, 2013. As a student is reading more often, they'll probably get tested at least 3 to 5 times a year at the very least. So in a real setting, you would see a lot more dots along this line, but this graph will populate everything that you put into it all the way down to the 1000th row in the spreadsheet. So there's a chart for accuracy growth. There's a chart for self-correction ratio. This one was a little confusing to me, but apparently the lower the ratio, the better the student is performing. And so you'd want to explain to the students, well, in this line on the graph, a line that's sloping downwards is actually better than upwards. And the last chart in here is the words per minute growth. The students can just see over time how they improve with their words per minute. These charts will automatically update. I have them formatted so I didn't put a minimum and maximum value in the y-axis. And so it will just correspond to whatever the student's scores are. So however it looks, you're not going to see like a line that's just going right along the bottom. It's going to be all relative to the student. So I think that will help with their confidence. If they can see that they're making progress, they're more likely to work hard and try to make more progress. Finally, the last tracking template I want to show you is this 4th grade reading class template. Now I have a blank template in here in the same resources folder that does not have conditional formatting for these. I just made one for 4th grade that shows conditional formatting because I wanted to do this for our school and specifically, but I thought it would help for this project. This is the same reading tracker as the Fountas and Pinnell individual one. This is just Fountas and Pinnell on the class level. So here's a space you can type each individual student's name in your class, and then you'll see here that there's 3 different sections in this tracker. There's one section for the first interval of the year, November through December. If you scroll over, you'll see that there is another second interval of the year, February through March, and then a third interval, May through June. And according to the Fountas and Pinnell system, they want the students tested at each of these intervals to see how they've progressed. With the Fountas and Pinnell system, they provide some benchmarks for where they think these students should be at the beginning, middle, and end of the year intervals. So what I've done is I've gone in here and I've conditionally formatted these benchmark placement levels to correlate with the levels that the student should be at. So for instance, I believe with 4th grade, just going off memory, I think that if they are exceeding expectations, that starts, for the beginning of the year, that starts at level R, I believe. So I'll type in R in this, and when I click, you'll see it turned to blue. And you see up here on the key that blue means exceeding expectations for that time of year. I believe everything A through, I want to say L maybe. So let's just try that. L shows up orange. And that means that if they are reading at the level L in the first interval of the year at a 4th grade level, that student needs some reading intervention. They need some extra help with their reading. So this is just a quick and easy way for the teacher to see when they type in, they can see which of their students are approaching expectations, meeting expectations, exceeding expectations, or in need of some extra intervention, some extra reading help. And so these levels change from interval to interval. So by the middle of the year interval, the students should theoretically be at a higher level. So, looking back here, R was where they're exceeding expectations. And at this level, let's see what happens when we type in R. So now R at the middle of the year is just meeting expectations. So these change with each interval, and all of the cells are formatted corresponding to Fountas and Pinnell's benchmark levels for the 4th grade. I have a paper that contains all of the benchmark levels from 1st through 6th grade, I believe, and I'll include that in the resource folder so you can see for yourself. If you'd like to conditionally format for your own grade, you can just make a copy and go back to the advanced functions tutorial. I'll link that in this video, and you can see how to do the conditional formatting for each of these spreadsheets. So these are just a few of the possible solutions that you can use Google Sheets for tracking in your classroom. There's many, many, many more ways to do that. And if you think of some great ways, go ahead and send them on to me, and I'll include them into this resource guide as well, and then other teachers can benefit from all of our work. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments section, and I'll do my best to get back to all of them. Thanks, and have a nice day.